I'm Steve Jeppy, and I'd like to welcome you to Jeppy's Entertainment Museum.
Mike? Dan? Are you ready? Let's get to Jeffy's. Dan! Boy, you gotta get to Jeffy's!
Are you ready for the show?
Seriously?
It's cosplay. That's what we're talking about. I'm getting into it. I'm going to be the Joker. We're going to take out the bats. It's going to be awesome.
At least get a proper wig.
That is fair. Hi, welcome to Two Guys in a Comic Book. I'm Zach as the Joker.
And I'm Brittany.
And this is Two Guys in a Comic Book. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to Two Guys in a Comic Book. I'm Zach.
And I'm Brittany.
And today's show we're going to be talking about cosplay. Now, as you can tell, Mike is not with us today. He's on assignment at VACon. So he'll be coming back in a couple of weeks to tell his experiences at VACon and some of the cool stuff that he's seen while he's been out and about. Now, the reason we have Brittany here is that she is a published cosplayer. And one of the big things I wanted to talk about today was kind of just cosplay in general. There's a lot of different things when it comes to cosplay. It's not just about putting the costume on, but there's the whole history of it. There's also the thing that's going on with the idea of what's the perfect body image, should you cosplay if you're someone of larger carriage. And then, of course, the important thing is this huge boom in cosplay that's going on. So if you don't mind, I'd like to talk a little bit about the history of cosplay. You have a little bit of knowledge of that, so
Sure.
You're more than welcome to share.
Cosplay is a portmanteau of costume play. And basically how it is that you basically don the persona or the idea of a character that you know and love. Usually from anime or from comic books is the most popular as of now, but you really can cosplay anything. I go by the name Kurenai Kiba, which means Crimson Fang in Japanese, and that is my cosplay name. And I've done everything from cartoons to Twister the board game, all that kind of crazy stuff. So.
Now, one of the big things with cosplay, from what I've seen from people talking about it, is this idea of creating your own.
Right.
As far as in the cosplay community, from seeing the people that have done it, talking to a few people, and following the handful of cosplayers that I do online, one of the big things with them is this idea of creating your own. Could you elaborate on that as far as like what that entails and everything that goes into making a costume for you specifically, or from other experiences you've had with other cosplayers?
Well, there is a huge idea behind some of the cosplayers who believe that you're not truly cosplaying unless you're creating your cosplay,
Okay.
which is 100% false. It does not matter where you get your cosplay from or whether you make it yourself. I make some of mine and I buy some of mine. Or other times I actually go ahead and I piece together things where I buy some of it and then I make some of it. It really just whatever gets your idea of your cosplay into real life. I know a lot of people, whenever they see somebody who they've completely made theirs head to toe, trying to put them on a pedestal, but they are just as much a cosplayer as somebody who goes to the store and buys theirs.
So me and my Joker and my terrible Joker mask, if I was to buy a pair of, like a work suit, I could go ahead and that would be accurate cosplay for some people. Other
That
people
is a
would be upset.
cosplay.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So it doesn't take a lot of money to get into it because I've seen some of the cosplays that you have people put together and they are just, they look like there's a lot invested in them.
That's very true. It really is a wide range of people who actually go ahead and either shuck thousands of dollars into it or someone who puts $20 into it.
Now, one of the biggest things that have come up with cosplay, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's kind of bubbled up with cosplay having this huge influx of popularity.
Yes.
It's the idea of what is suitable cosplay. Now, anyone who's been to the cons recently, especially the bigger ones like New York or Baltimore had them as well, there are the signs saying that cosplay is not consent.
Yes.
Now, obviously that has to do with a lot of the fact that some of the people that dress in these cosplay are very revealing at times because of the costumes.
Comic books.
Comic books in general. But the other thing that I find very interesting is that there's this idea coming out that there's only a certain style to cosplay. I don't mean style as in costume, but look.
Oh, yeah.
There's, in fact, one of the more Zoftic cosplayers that are out there, Ivy Doom Kitty, whenever she goes to conventions, holds a class called So They Say You Shouldn't Cosplay.
Right.
And I want to talk to you a little bit about that, about this idea of is there a perfect balance? Is there a way to do it? Or is this something that's just more someone's idea that's being forced on everyone else as far as what the look is supposed to be of a cosplayer?
Well, that actually kind of ties into a article that I just read about Yaya Han, another notable cosplayer, who
Okay.
actually said that the golden age of cosplay used to be where it was more of a smaller, more knit community where instead of there were some people trying to tear others down, we actually helped each other to better our craft
Okay.
and to create a finer form of the art that is cosplay. And now when you kind of see the idea of it, a lot of times you see a lot of negativity going towards it. It's like, oh, you're too fat for this cosplay. You're too skinny for this one. You're too big for the... It's ridiculous. Which is why actually I really like the idea of Ivy giving these classes out, because it really shouldn't matter what you are. I've cosplayed Tuxedo Mask. I do not look like Tuxedo Mask. But I do it anyway. Because Tuxedo's a bomb. It's a badass, but...
It's supposed to be about your love of the cosplay from
Exactly.
everything that I've gathered, as someone who's a complete novice in it.
Exactly.
This is literally as far as I delve into cosplay. And now part of that is because of the body image stuff you're talking about. As a man, to be a male character, it's hard to be of larger carriage. And that's not necessarily because of the fact that you're looked down upon in the cosplay community. It's just that superheroes have a certain look. If you're going to be Thor and you don't have the arms to be Thor, the costume looks off on you. It doesn't look as good. Same way if you're going to go ahead and dress as Spider-Man, if you're not svelte, it's going to accentuate other parts of you that again are going to make you feel uncomfortable. And the whole point of cosplay, from everything I've gathered, from everyone that I've from the follow online to people like you and the people I've had the chance to talk with, is they want you to feel comfortable about your cosplay.
Exactly.
And I feel like, so as a man, there's always going to be that double standard that's there, that if you can't walk around without your shirt off, maybe you're not going to be able to cosplay. And I mean, as much as that is, I could always cosplay Homer Simpson, I could always cosplay Peter Griffin, any of the other, fat characters out there. I'd be a perfect D-Man, because D-Man is just a fat guy running around in an old Daredevil suit and a Wolverine mask. So I'd be perfect for that. Got the beard and everything. Now, another thing that's really prevalent in cosplay that I love, and it's one of my favorite parts of going to cons, is when you see people walking around and they're dressed in character and they stay in character the entire convention.
Right.
One of the cosplayers we work with, the Web Pool, has a very nice gentleman that dresses as Captain America from the stealth suit. When he's in costume, he's referred to as Steve. And that's what he responds to, that's what he reacts to, and it's very cool. And that seems to be kind of the idea with cosplayers, and maybe
Right.
you could enlighten that a little bit.
Oh yeah. Whenever you go on a new cosplay, as soon as you put on that costume, you are that character.
Oh.
From the time you put it on to the time you go home and you take it off. You don that persona of the character. You are that character.
Now, you have one of my favorite cosplays that I've seen, and actually even started before you started working here at Jeppy's. It was actually the one that caught my most attention and actually won you a prize here, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. And that is your...
My Twister the board game cosplay.
Actually, that was a very cool one, but the one that I was referring to is the Weeping Angel.
Oh, yeah.
Which
That's
now,
also my favorite. That's
Now-
also a favorite.
could you go into a little detail about what it took to put that together, and what was your kind of the genesis of wanting to be that character out of all the Doctor Who villains? What was that? What stood out that made you all in on that?
Well, I've been watching Doctor Who for a very long time because my dad, he's Jamaican, so he grew up on British television.
Okay.
So the way that he says it is like, I'm going to raise you right. So he made sure that we watched a bunch of British shows, including Doctor Who.
Okay.
And I just got reintroduced to Doctor Who because I'm not going to lie, I fell off during the 8th Doctor with that crazy movie. It kind of looked like Mortal Kombat 2.
That movie.
Which was
that movie.
just unfortunate. Just unfortunate.
Oh,
But-
as a nice side note of it.
Yeah, go
if
for it.
you're a fan, if I have a friend that's a huge Doctor Who fan, and if you're a fan of the 8th Doctor, the character, there's a ton of audio dramas that the BBC has done that are spot
those.
on and very, very good.
So awesome.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. So,
It doesn't matter. As soon, let's go ahead and let's get back on because once we start talking about Doctor Who, it's going to be another 5 episodes.
fair enough.
So I went ahead and I got back on to Doctor Who, and as soon as I saw Don't Blink, as soon as I saw that episode, I was like, I need to be that. I
Okay.
do. And then my sister just looked at me and was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, you'll understand. And then for months, I did research. That's a huge part of cosplay. Definitely the research. Research on paints, on makeup, on clothing, on what exactly do they look like. Design. How am I going to work with wings everywhere? Because you're not used to that. You're not used to having the wingspan on a normal basis when you're walking around. What did I want to go for? Do I want to go and look exactly like a Weeping Angel as opposed to just any type I want? I went ahead and that's a cosplay that's been pieced together.
Okay.
So the silicone, I use a silicone cowl for the head because I didn't want to paint my own hair.
enough.
I go ahead and I paint my face because I see a lot of Weeping Angels now. They have masks, but masks don't work well with me. I don't like breathing in my own CO2.
Trust me, despite this looking great, is not comfortable for an entire day.
For real. And I know I was going to be at Otakon, which honestly, that con knows how to party. So
Okay.
I'll know that I was going to have to be hours that I was going to be in that makeup. I definitely wanted to do a dress
Okay.
because it'd be a lot easier to walk around in. I put gloves on instead of painting my hands because I knew that I was going to eat soon and I don't want paint on my hands when I'm trying to eat. I have to say my favorite part of that was the whiteout contacts.
Okay.
Now, I'm not used to wearing contacts because I don't wear glasses.
Okay.
But I went ahead and I made sure that these were ones that had 0 medication in them. They were the most comfortable, and it was actually the first time of me wearing contacts was with that cosplay as well, because I felt that to really pull off the look of Stone, that was going to be the piece de resistance for it.
Now, what I was going to ask you about, when you were talking about putting that costume together and all the different pieces, parts,
Right.
did you put the costume together immediately and all together? Or did you take it out and try different things and see how they worked? Like, talked about the not painting your hands, you wore the gloves. Was that
Right.
like trial and error, or was that just, did you?
That was actually part of a costume.
Okay.
That was already pre-made as a Venetian stone mistress.
Okay.
And so I went ahead, I got that. And when it comes to costumes for me, I can never wear them out of the package because they're always too small up here.
Fair enough.
So thank God I know how to sew. I went ahead and I attached some extra fabric under, and then just kept making sure that everything fit perfectly. When it came to the wings, I searched for a while for the wings. Once I found them, spray painted them white, and then I actually did some inking with Sharpie to mimic what the dress looked like.
Okay.
And it looks more marble than it is just stone, which is actually what I really liked more.
Okay.
So yeah, that's basically all really. It's just little things here and there that I tweaked to just make it my own.
Now, what's great about this, and what's great about this costume, why I really wanted to hear about it, was that you were also featured in a magazine with this one, correct?
Right, Narrative Magazine.
And what's cool about this brings me to the last thing I want to talk about, is we're running short on time. And we've been talking about cosplay all episode. I want to find out about how you feel about this huge bubble up of this pop culture phenomenon. You have people like yourself, and we've mentioned a couple, Ivy Doomkate, Bella Chair, Yo-Yo Han, all these different cosplayers that are making a living off of this.
Yeah.
And being able to go ahead and not just support themselves, but support themselves rather thoroughly.
Right.
Now, is it cool on your end to see this coming up, or, and you mentioned the Yo-Yo Han article, is it a little bit of jealousy, or is it this cool, happy mix of you're happy that people are doing this, but you don't know if this is something that people can actually aspire to?
When it comes to this, honestly, I have always truly believed that everyone should cosplay. Even
Okay.
before I really knew what cosplay was, I think everybody should just wear costumes. It does not matter what you look like, where you come from, what religion you are. Use your own creative spin to actually cosplay. That I really don't mind. Like, when it comes to it now becoming a pop culture as opposed to a subculture, it's actually kind of benefiting me. Like, when it comes to certain events, I'm hired out for events for certain comic book companies around here, as well as just little things here and there, parties, cool stuff like that. And now, actually, because it's a pop culture thing now, as opposed to subculture, that show Hero Cosplay, I know a lot of people don't like it, but because of that, my mom knows what Warbler is.
Okay.
So I appreciate it for what it is. I always thought it was really cool that everybody is kind of getting on the bandwagon, and that now just geek culture in general, instead of just cosplay, is, you know, kind of getting popular, which is really, I always liked it.
And it's a big thing when you take a look at the way all the movies have kind of bubbled up and become a huge
Yes.
part of it, that cosplaying is doing that. The other thing that's cool with cosplay is that there's a lot of creativity that's coming from it.
Right.
We've mentioned a ton of the different people that, you know, go out and make a living doing cosplay.
Right.
And the one thing that they all tend to do very well is it's not just their characters. It's not just the characters like Spider-Woman or Miss Marvel or any of the different costumes they have. It's also, you have the, you know, the gender bend cosplays, the taking a known character and creating your own out of it.
Right.
For example, in Baltimore, Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, well-known male Green Lantern from Baltimore. You have a lot of females that want to go ahead and actually become Guy Gardner.
Right.
And do the gender bend version of that. With everything going on in the different comics, you have so much more availability for it, and it's cool to go ahead and see this idea that creativity is only limited by what you can think of. It's not necessarily what you can do.
Yeah.
And you showed me a cool article, speaking of interpreting, because you mentioned bringing in your religion and everything about, and maybe you can talk about more, where they've incorporated the actual saras, is it?
Hijabis.
Hijabis into the costume.
That was fantastic. There is an article that I just saw that was actually about just focusing on hijabi cosplayers. Like, I saw the cutest one I thought was a Princess Leia one, where she actually took her hijabi and wrapped it around like the Leia buns.
Okay.
I thought it was so cute. I love it. I love creativity when it comes to cosplay.
And that's a big part of cosplay, is the creativity, to be able to go ahead and take the stuff you love and create. And
Right.
go ahead, and like I said, the gender bend stuff is very cool.
Oh, yeah.
I love when it goes both ways too, because there were at Baltimore this year, there was the gentleman who was dressed as a Sailor Scout.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed to see someone who, really, that's not a flattering costume.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to go
Male
ahead.
slave Leia's all the way.
Slave Leia is the next one. The moment we have a male slave Leia, that should just be plastered all over the internet. That's going to break the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Way more than Kim Kardashian.
Oh, yeah, for real.
Now, one last thing with cosplay.
Right.
And again, as someone who's a novice, and you who've been doing it for a long time, we brought up at the beginning of the episode, there are the different stuff that's showing up, where there's the sign showing up the big cons. As a cosplayer, how do you feel about this idea that cosplayers are now being, this refuge, which was the con, has been overtaken so much that you have to have these signs out to tell people how to act?
Honestly, when it comes to the cosplayers itself, I don't mind it at all. It's just the the jerks that actually just use cosplay as an excuse to, personally invade someone's personal space. That's the only part I don't find cool about it. I mean, like, basically, when it comes to jerks being jerks, whenever it comes to certain circumstances, whenever those types of circumstances happen, there really is no excuse for that.
Yeah.
Whether you're in cosplay or not, whether she's just walking down the street or he is walking down the street, there is no excuse.
I'm with you 110% on that. The
Yeah.
two coolest things about this, and again, I hate saying cool, because what's going on with that, where these signs have to be put up to go ahead and protect the cosplayers.
Exactly.
It's not cool. But to go ahead, and I can only speak to the two instances I saw in New York, so I didn't see anything in Baltimore. I didn't hear anything.
Right.
The two instances I saw in New York in which we saw the people in the con take responsibility and control of that was a girl was walking around in a Black Canary outfit. And for those who are not familiar, the Black Canary outfit is basically fishnets, pair of shorts, and
Like a black one-piece bathing suit
Yeah.
with boots.
and that's kind of
And a jacket.
And a jacket. She was walking around in that, and you had two guys who started catcalling, hoot and hollering. It was cool because right behind them was one of the staff members from the convention in a sweatshirt going to eat lunch. And he just reached between me to the two guys, tapped him on the shoulder, and went, "You're out." And they grabbed him by the scruff of the neck and tossed them out of the convention and took their passes. As someone who likes going to these cons, and as big as they're getting, especially in New York, especially San Diego,
Yeah.
it was really cool to see the staff take a hands-on approach to go, these two people are causing problems for our actual patrons. Doesn't matter they paid for the ticket. If they're not going to be respectful, they need to go.
Exactly.
And there was another one that was a little more over the top, but again, staff did the right thing.
Good.
A gentleman and his girl were cosplaying. I think he was Quicksilver. I remember she was Scarlet Witch. Again, another revealing cosplay. And she was, again, Zoftic, if you will. A guy came out, and the way the costume sits is that the top of her chest is exposed. And guy comes out, sees her, and this goes to the guy dressed as Quicksilver. I bet you're glad you get to be with that every night, and then smacks her on the top of the chest. The boyfriend turns around and does what any boyfriend would do and hits him in the face. You have security rush around both of them, and they start pulling the dude out. The boyfriend, he goes, "Hold on." He smacked her in the chest. And when they went, "Do you have any proof?" He went, "Look at her chest." And there was a huge handprint right here.
Yeah.
So they let the boyfriend go, grabbed the guy up who was inappropriate, grabbed him by the scruff of the neck, said, "You're out," and tossed him out and took his pass. These are two examples that could have gone horribly wrong, where these two specific cosplayers could have just been left to be, felt victimized, felt
Right.
to feel like they're uncomfortable in a place that it's supposed to be everyone's fandom.
Yeah.
And instead, the staff did what they were supposed to do. Which, it's weird to go ahead and celebrate the staff for doing that, but in a situation like this with the amount of people that are there,
Yeah.
it's cool to see the staff actually take an idea where they want to go ahead and make sure that everyone feels comfortable.
Yeah, it should be common sense not to do those types of things. And it is kind of sad to actually see that we actually now have to start making statements and actually, taking action against that now, whereas it should just be common sense. Cons are a safe haven for geeks, nerds, whatever you are. As long as you love that fandom, you should be accepted in that place. There should be no other rhyme or reason why it shouldn't be a safe haven for you. It's your break from reality.
The comic convention has always been that place where you're able to go ahead and take your geeking fandom and revel in it and not
Right.
have to hide it, not have to put it out. And
Right.
with the way the cons have blown up and the way our characters and our fandom has become such pop culture,
Right.
it was becoming less and less of a safe haven. So it's cool to see these companies that are putting on these cons for us
Yeah.
take the step back. Okay, we need to make sure that this is comfortable for everybody.
Trying to get that back.
Now, unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. I do want to thank Brittany very much for sitting in with us to talk about cosplay. And
course.
any Twitter, Facebook, anything you want to go ahead and promote real quick?
I just have a Facebook page. Apparently, I really need to get more accounts out there, like DeviantArt and Tumblr, because every time I tell them I'm a cosplayer, they look at me with shock and awe that I only have a Facebook page. But that's coming soon. It's all going to be under Kurenai Kiba. You can find me at facebook.com/Kurenai Kiba. Simple as that.
All right, terrific. Again, I want to thank you guys for joining us this week. Now, Brittany, you'll be joining us next week as well. We're going to talk about some of the comics we have laid out here in front of you and some of the different things that are going on in the comic world. I want to thank you once again for joining us on Two Guys in a Comic Book. I'm Zach.
And I'm Brittany.
And you guys have a great night. We'll see you next week.
That come together to create it, and that was important for me for the show, is just showing that. And that's what I think the show really does, is it tells various stories from the Milestone era to the Afrofuturism artwork that is really gaining momentum right now, to all sorts of things. And we have a website for the show, milestonestheshow.com. I won't spell it out since it's going to be written right below me. Milestonestheshow.com. Read it right below me.